I'm Leah, founder and president of Pineapple Support. I'd like to welcome you to our podcast, Pineapple Talk. Pineapple Support is a charity I set up in 2018 for people working in the adult performance industry. We offer a support text service provided by trained volunteers and an online therapy service staffed by qualified counsellors, psychologists, and psychotherapists.
Hi, and I'm Shelley, and I've been involved with Pineapple Support since its very conception.
If you'd like to find out more information about Pineapple Support, please visit the website pineapplesupport.org.
So this session is the first of our series focusing on bullying. All of our guests have careers in the adult industry and have personal experience of being bullied. So we're really keen to hear their thoughts and views.
In this session, we're going to talk to Brad. Brad has been on the podcast before. Brad has been in the adult industry for 20 years. It's not showing your age at all, Brad. And is also on the board for Pineapple Support and has an award-winning company, Mojo Hosts, which is the trusted web host of choice for tens of thousands of adult websites. Hi, Brad.
Hi, Leah. Thank you so much for having me back.
Thank you. So it is a pleasure, and we're very grateful for you taking the time for us today.
Happy to.
So today we're talking about bullying. Now, you mentioned when we were approaching you about this podcast that you have had experience from bullying when you were at school.
I did. So I think, should I just jump right into that?
Just jump right in.
So, I think we could all probably agree that it's difficult to be an adolescent, and my experience, I believe, really starting in middle school, probably around when I hit puberty and my voice changed, was I don't know. For me, anyways, was like a little bit uniquely terrifying. So it was somewhere in 6th or 7th grade for me. So that I think would have been 12 or 13 years old, where. In the United States where I live, smaller elementary schools dump into larger middle schools and dump into larger high schools. And it was in like 7th grade. I had a falling out with a friend group. We were all stupid teenagers, and on some bad day, got caught shoplifting at a Kmart here in metropolitan Detroit. Some of the kids I was with, I guess that they did that frequently, and on that day I made bad choices and was just kind of along for the ride. So I also got in trouble. So how does that fit into Brad getting bullied? Well, so what happened, I'm not sure it's completely related, but around that time in my life, like I said, puberty, my voice definitely changed, and it always gets awkward, for boys when they start to reach maturity. They smell more and they sound different, and nothing's quite right upstairs or anywhere else. So I lost, I guess a group of close friends. My parents wouldn't allow me to hang out with them anymore. And as a parent myself today, I don't think that they necessarily made a bad choice about that. But it was sometime in that range where all of a sudden I was a fag. And, that was the jab. I was always a sensitive kid and sort of quiet and meek, but that's when, at least as far as I remember, the first time in my life when I felt persecuted for being gay. And I'm still not gay, but but I relate a lot to the experiences that so many of my friends have had from being bullied, because I've had that experience, and I think in a lot of ways it's made me a deeper, more understanding person, and more giving, maybe even more sensitive. So that was really when that first started, and that sort of continued throughout the rest of middle school and into high school. It was always kind of like the cheap shot. I had always had a couple of close friends, but was never by any stretch of anyone's imagination a popular kid. I think on one of your previous episodes we talked about a little bit about my social anxiety that I used to have. But that was always hurtful, and what's interesting though is people being people, whether they're 12-year-olds or 18-year-olds or 50-year-olds or 30-year-olds. It's been my experience now traveling the world and really being in the adult industry has given me such a blessed opportunity to do that. I've also experienced that in my adult life. I've been pushed, shoved, yelled at, hollered at. And sometimes just, I think by the look on my face, or maybe someone's listening to me overhearing a conversation, I can't make my presence, and I wouldn't seem any different for anyone else that's in my company. I am just the way that I am. And so it's interesting. So yeah, I've had all these experiences, like, all over the US, and then sometimes in different places in Europe where people just have gotten aggressive with me. And, sometimes it just starts by, like, you hear somebody mumbling something under their breath, and it's difficult. But I'm, at this age now, at 45, I think I'm thankful for having had the experience. I feel like it's made me a better, more understanding person. I think it's made me a better dad to my kids. I have 3 teenagers now, 16, 16, and 17. One of my boys is straight, one of my boys is gay, and my daughter is bisexual, and they are all out in high school. And as that presents its challenges for all of them in their different ways, even for the straight one, I guess it's my opinion. I just feel so lucky today that, to be in the area that I live in, which I guess has perhaps, a higher income, but a better understanding, is more accepting. They have groups at school, support groups. The kids have a sense of community. And in my view, especially having, being able to reflect on my own experience, I think that, of course, the experience can vary wildly just depending on where you live by a matter of miles. But I think that there's maybe never been a better, safer time to be openly gay or of any other sexual orientation. So despite its challenges, I'm still very thankful that I feel like in the last 20, 25 years, things have changed quite a lot, and there's a lot more support resources available, and at least in some communities, hopefully an easier time for the kids.
Going back to when you were at school, what type of bullying was it? Was it a small group of people? Was it some individuals? Or did it get worse and worse? Was it physical? Was it more verbal?
So I had bits and pieces of all of that. Like, I remember being physically bullied once in high school by, like, where he picked me up by my neck up against a wall. And, he was bigger than me, and he just didn't seem like he was a very smart guy. He's got a short temperament. But there was that. I think, it was interesting. One of the boys that we consider to have been my best friend in elementary school, or one of the two, was more athletic. I was never really athletically inclined, so that made it, I think that presents a different set of challenges, because sometimes I think, kids can ride that benefit of being on a team, and having friends in that sense of community. And since I was never really very sporty, and I was more nerdy, I didn't really have that kind of, like, backup or friend set. I remember there was a couple of different kids, and I didn't necessarily feel like I fit into any of those particular friend groups. And my friend group was always on the more artistic and nerdy side of things, not sporting, not on the baseball team or the football team or the ski team or track team or any of that stuff. But it's interesting. I even talk about timely, how weird the universe is when things come together. So the one boy that actually physically bullied me, I ran into him like 10, 15 years ago, and he apologized to me. He's had his own story. I guess his childhood was difficult. He's a nice guy. We're Facebook friends. And it's amazing to me the things that you forget too. So I had this really odd experience. So I'll give a quick share, but I think it might give everyone a nice laugh. So the other day, I'm Facebook friends with at least a couple dozen kids that I went to high school with, but starting from some reunion, maybe the 10-year reunion, we're all just connected in some way through Facebook because it makes it so easy. But one of the girls that I went to middle and high school with messaged me the other day, and she just said, hey, I've been thinking about you. I think about you a lot. And it got kind of awkward. Long story short, all in the same conversation, she was trying to pick up on me, explaining that her and her husband have some type of open marriage and that would be okay for them. And then she proceeded to go on and say, I just feel so bad about how I bullied you when we were younger. Some things really stick with you. And I'm like, I don't necessarily remember in my memory that happening, but I know that she was part of what would quintessentially be defined as like the sort of the popular group of girls. So, boy, interesting how everything sort of comes full circle. But so it was. I think it was a little bit from all sides. It was, from girls as well as boys. It wasn't limited to any particular group. It was a weak point. I think, at least in my experience, when I reflect back, something I could never control was that it was always hurtful to me. And I think in an environment when people are struggling to be in control, and when you're kids, you're really not in control of much of anything. It furthered making me an easy target because I react like I couldn't be like cool or brush it off or just let it roll off me. And I think bullies sometimes zero in on that because they see that they're getting a reaction.
It's boring otherwise, isn't it?
And as you say, you were speaking in one of our last podcasts about social anxiety, and as you say, you are quite sensitive, and you didn't like speaking up at school, if I remember rightly. Right. I guess you perhaps were, as you say, seen as an easy target, if that's fair to say.
I think so. I mean, it was great to be I was really quite fit. I think I had a little bit more hair. I was a pretty good looking kid, but I was quiet and I was shy and I was always super polite and well mannered, and I wasn't a boisterous person. I wasn't funny or maybe even good at it in social situations. But
and I was curious, Brad, did the school ever get involved at all when you were being bullied, or did you share with anybody that you were being bullied all the time?
So that's a great question. I remember one meeting with my counselor where this was after this boy accosted me in the hallway, like physically. This kid went like some totally opposite direction. His story was that I was trying to push him to sell drugs. Like he just like completely made some shit up. So so I don't honestly remember if I ever had a different kind of a sit down with a counselor in high school. I know when I was in middle school and high school, things were very difficult at home. My dad was an alcoholic for all of my childhood. He's been sober now for about 15 years. But I didn't, I have 3 older brothers, and my parents are obviously, ranging up to like 11 years older than me. And my parents, obviously older still. Now they're 76 and 80. They really are wonderful. But at that moment in time, I think it was a difficult time in the family, in the house, because my dad's business at 20 was aged at that point. It was maybe 25 years, and he had quite a good run. But due to different things in business, I think the family business was sort of failing at that point. His drinking, and I lived in a very classical alcoholic family, with each of us having one of those personalities that you can see described in any one of the books on the alcohol.